get... Okay, so at this point in the chapter, we're dealing with the fours, and in the fours, we're trying to understand, or the Mishnah is trying to present us how it is that we become a righteous person. How do we grow? How do we do something with ourselves? Well, if you look at all the other Mishnayos in the fours, the ones that were and even the ones that are going to come, each one of them is talking about our characteristics. If you remember, we spoke about recognizing your strengths, recognizing your character, and being able to work with your character, or recognize your character and to be able to work against your character, to be able to push yourself beyond your limitations, to recognize how you are in anger, how you are in the way you see other people, to recognize how you are in the way you see the way your temperament is. We've dealt with things that were consequential, things that were huge. Now the Mishnah says there are 4 types of people that go to the Beis Medrash. Well, whoop-de-doo. Why do I care? Why is that a consequential thing? That, oh my gosh, like this is so monumental. There are 4 types. I've never gone to the Beis Medrash in my life. What are you talking about? Like a person looks at his Mishnah and says, like it has nothing to do with me. I don't even know what you're talking about. What's a Beis Medrash? Why is it presented? When you say there are 4 temperaments, and you say that there are people that get angry and that don't get angry, or there are people that say, this is mine, this is yours, what's mine is and yours is yours. That stuff is consequential. That stuff means something in a person's life. What does this mean, even? What's the Mishnah saying to me? That there are 4 types of people that go to the Beis Medrash. That's problem number 1. Problem number 2 is that we said that the first stage, we said there are 4 different types of people that go to the Beis Medrash. No, there aren't. This Mishnah is only presenting 2. Look at it again, because in number 1, it's a person who goes, but he doesn't produce. Okay, so he went. But the second one, and we say that he gets reward for going. The second one, he goes, and he produces, but he doesn't go. So he doesn't go. Number 2 doesn't even go. Number 3, he goes and he does, great. And number 4 is he doesn't go and he doesn't do. So it's really only 2 types of people that go to the Beis Medrash, because the other 2 are not even showing up. So what does that mean that there are 4 types of people that go to the Beis Medrash? My third problem is that you don't go and you don't produce and you're wicked? That's rishus? That's wickedness? I could understand in some of the others, as we explain them each week, how the 4th one would be considered a wicked person. I get that. But this, a person who doesn't go and doesn't produce, okay, so what do you call him? You call him somebody who's engaged in other things. Somebody who's not particularly clued in, somebody who doesn't care much. Great, but why are you calling him a wicked person? And in the same token, why are you calling a person who goes and produces a chassid, a pious person? What did you do to show piety? You went and you did shkayach. You remember we had a Mishnah a while ago that said that if you study a lot of Torah in your life, don't break your arm patting yourself on the back. Because that's why you were created. So a person who goes and he produces, that's why you're here. So why is that a chassid? Why is that a pious person? This one, it just feels like it's harder to unpack. Because what's the Mishnah really trying to teach me? What's the message of this Mishnah? How is this a development in my midos, in my character structure, that is critical to becoming a tzaddik, to becoming a righteous person, to becoming a growthful person? What does that have to do with it? So I'll tell you what I think the Mishnah is saying. I think this Mishnah is the easiest and most straightforward of all of them. Because I think what this Mishnah is saying to us is that, you can talk about your anger, you could talk about the way you see your possessions, the way you see other people's possessions, the way you see tzedakah, the way you give. But at the end of the day, there are 2 midos. One that you need to acquire and one that you need to get rid of. And it's called zrizos and atzlus. Zrizos means alacrity, speed, enthusiasm, energy. And atzlus is laziness. And that laziness has to be shed it has to be gotten rid of, and zrizus is something that needs to be replaced with. And that those are the midos, those are the characteristics of a holchei beis hamedrash. The Mishnah is not talking about holchei beis hamedrash. I can't say it could care less, but that's not what it's trying to present us. I want you to learn how to be the best type of person that goes to the study hall. That's not the Mishnah. That's not what the Mishnah is presenting. What the Mishnah is saying is, let's look in the context of going to the beis hamedrash. Because that's a tremendous challenge for us to go to the beis hamedrash, to go into study, to go into learn, to really to go to put ourselves into certain places. But it's not about a beis hamedrash. The reason why it talks about a beis hamedrash, the reason why it talks about a study hall, a place to learn Torah, is because in the beis hamedrash, because when you go to study, that's when you learn how not to be lazy, and you learn how to have energy. And we're going to talk about that towards the end. But that's the place. The reason why the Mishnah brings it out of there, brings out the concept of laziness from there, is because that's the place where that's the place where you learn about it. That's the therapy hall. That's when it comes to learning Torah, the more you learn, the more you understand. So then the easier it is to beat out these two, to beat out one of these characteristics and to acquire the other. Okay, let's take a look at this. 2 weeks ago in the Parsha, we were taught about a concept called Shmura Matzah. Now, it could be that you missed it, and you didn't realize that we talked about that in the Parsha. Because the Parsha says a very simple thing. When God gives Moshe all of the laws of Korban Pesach, of the Paschal Lamb, he tells him, Ushmartem es hamatzos, that you have to guard the matzos. Guarding the matzos means that you have to make sure that they don't become chametz. You have to make sure that water does not hit the wheat, so that it begins the chimutz process, that it begins this process of spoiling and the process of becoming chametz. That is the mitzvah of shmura matzah. You know, we eat those. We eat the round, the round handmade matzahs at the seder. But the truth is that there are also square matzahs that are made that way. But this obligation on Pesach to eat shmura matzah, not necessarily the whole Pesach, but to eat, all matzah is really guarded on Pesach, but this is guarded from the time that it gets cut from for the wheat gets cut from the ground. That is a mitzvah, it's a commandment, one of the 613 that's taught us in these two words, ushmartem es hamatzos, 3 words. Our rabbis there say, don't read the word matzos, read the word mitzvos. Now, if you can spell in Hebrew, mem tzadi vav taf, you can read that matzos, you can read that mitzvos. You got to stick another vav in there really, but it's fine, it's close enough. Ushmartem es mitzvos. And what does that mean? Guard the mitzvos. Mitzvah bali yodcha, if a mitzvah comes to your hand, al tach mitzana. Don't lose the opportunity. Very important point. Don't be lazy. Shkayach. But why are you teaching that to me by matzahs? Why are you teaching that to me by the exit of Egypt, by leaving Egypt? So you tell me about ushmartem es mitzvos? Guard the mitzvos? Just leave it. Matzos, it's fine. Ushmartem es matzos. You just taught me something important. I have to have shmura matzah. I have to make sure my matzah, I have to be neurotic about my matzah not becoming chametz. Why do I need to have this other teaching also of, by the way, don't just read it as matzos, but read it as mitzvos and guard the mitzvos, guard the mitzvos with absolute care and with precision. And if something of opportunity comes to you, don't waste the opportunity. Because the truth is that the entire message of matzah, one of the messages of matzah, is chipazon. We left Egypt quickly. When we ate the first Paschal Lamb, the first night before we left Egypt, right, that night of the 15th of Nisan, we had to eat the Korban Pesach, the Paschal Lamb, with our belts on, with our pekalach on our backs, with our sticks in our hands, as if, you ever come into the house and your parent would say to you, take your coat off, stay for a while. You start to grobble, you start to eat something. Right? They say, relax, sit down, stay for a while. Well, that's the exact opposite of the way that we ate the Korban Pesach. We ate it as if we had one foot out the door. The matzahs, when we talk about matzahs, we talk about this object that we're eating that we didn't have enough time to be able to bake, that we had to take out the dough and then the dough baked on our backs. The image that we're given, and what the Torah calls it, chipazon, that we left quickly in haste. It wasn't really such haste. I mean, God had the thing pretty much planned out. But we needed to feel it was haste because we needed to understand that the very foundation of everything we do has to be energy. There has to be a sense, there's no room for lackadaisical performance. There's no room for sluggishness. There's no room for dragging your feet. There has to be an energy. And that in the very first mitzvahs that God commanded us, that when he said, Ushmartem es hamatzos, he taught us the reason why you have to guard matzos, because you have to learn how to protect, how to run, how to have energy, how to see things as critical, and then to be able to do them, to run to them, to have enough power and energy inside of you to be able to accomplish what you need to accomplish. And that's the whole message of the Exodus of Egypt, that things have to be done in speed. An opportunity comes to you, don't let it go by the wayside. Don't be lazy. You know, when it comes to sacrifices, for example, a sin offering, the Torah tells us that you have to bring an offering when you commit a sin by accident. And in that offering, you have to take the blood and sprinkle the blood on the altar. And you have to take the fats, the kishkas of the animal, something that we're dealing right now with in Daf Yomi, that you have to take the kishkas and the fats and you have to burn them on top of the altar. And the rabbis wonder that why is it dafka these two parts of the animal? The Torah tells us that we have to take the blood and put that on the altar, and then we have to take the fats, the kishkas, the insides of the animal, and put them on the altar. So rabbis tell us because blood represents warmth, it represents energy, it represents this midah, this characteristic of zerizus. It's constantly pumping, it's constantly moving. And the fats, that represents a coldness, a laziness, an atzlus. It's something, there's a certain sluggishness to it. When somebody brings a chata, somebody brings a sin offering, they have to address both of these issues. They have to address the lack of energy, and they have to address the atzlus, the laziness. Therefore, we take the blood, which should have been our energy, and we toss that on the altar. We offer that up to God. We use that as a kapara, as an atonement for the lack of energy that we had. We take our sluggishness, represented by the kishkas, by the insides, the innards of the animal, and we offer that up on the altar. Because both of those things need to be fixed in a person. Because it's a critical foundation that we need to have. We know that when King Solomon describes laziness, he says an amazing thing. King Solomon, when he talks in Mishlei, one of the things that he says is that a lazy person says there is a lion in the road. And that's why he can't go study, that's why he can't go accomplish what he needs to accomplish, because there's a lion in the road. So when you analyze that section, you say to yourself, wait a second, if there's a lion in the road and the guy won't leave his house because there's a lion in the road, well then, that's not really lazy. That's a smart dude. That's pretty careful. There's a lion in the road. I don't think it's a good idea to go outside with a lion in the road. If there isn't a lion in the road and he's just using it as an excuse, well, he's delusional. And, Shlomo Melech doesn't need to talk about that. He needs to give us a number where we can call and, and speak to somebody to deal with our delusions. So what does it mean that you're lazy because you say there's a lion in the road? Because a person with energy looks at that and says, there's a lion in the road. How do I figure out how to get past that lion? How do I figure out how to get a helicopter to get over that lion? Or how do I figure out how to dress up like a lion and be able to walk past the lion? Whatever it is. But I have a situation in front of me. I have something that is preventing me from doing what I need to do, and therefore I need to rethink this and figure out how to get around this. The lazy person looks at it and says, wow, snow day. Oh, isn't that great? I'm so upset. I can't go. My car broke down. Oh, I can't go. That's the lazy person. The lazy person looks at it and says that, I've been delivered the excuse that I've been looking for. Why is that a lazy person? Why is that lazy? I mean, there's a lion in the road. What do you want the guy to do? There's a lion in the road. The car broke down. What's a person supposed to do? Because I'm going to tell you very simply what laziness is. You can look at articles, and even Torah articles, and you'll find that in a very beautiful way, they describe that there are different types of laziness. There's emotional laziness. There's physical laziness. There's all kinds of laziness. I was reading an article yesterday, which was really it was stunning. The way that they packaged certain things together, and it was a Torah article. But I think I disagree. I don't think you've ever heard those words from me before. But I think in my life experience, I disagree. And I think that I'm willing to say 99% of all of our laziness comes from a lack of understanding of the value of the thing that I'm supposed to do. Because if I understood how critical this was, so then there would be no laziness. If a person understood you're going to use just a few examples. It's not that I'm not choosing these specifically, it's just coming to my head. If a person were to understand how the entire world, the foundation of the entire world shakes every time a Yid says, Amen, Yehei Shmei Rabba Mevarach La'olam Ul'ol Me'ol Maya. Every time we answer, Amen, Yehei Shmei Rabba to Kaddish, there are spiritual pieces in this world that are built, and spiritual foundations that are shored up. The very earth we stand on, the very spiritual earth that we stand on, becomes strengthened. It becomes powerful. It gains an ability to have everlastingness. If we understood that, there would never be a moment of laziness in having an opportunity to be able to answer Amen Yehei Shmei Rabbah, or to actually utter those words. If a person understood what the value of a chesed was, of what a kindness, of bringing something to someone, of giving something to someone, if somebody understood not just what the value was to that other person, but understood what that does, berumah shel olam, in the upper levels of heaven, in what that does to the balance, the spiritual balance of our world, person wouldn't be lazy. Imagine, I often tell this to teenagers, if I were to tell you we're going skiing, it's an 8-hour drive. I'm waking you up at 3 o'clock in the morning. We're going to drive for 8 hours. We're going to get onto the slopes by 12. We'll spend 6 hours on the slopes. Then we're getting in the car and we're coming back home. So we're going to spend 16 hours driving, starting at 3 o'clock in the morning, in order to have a couple of hours on the slopes. I'm picking you up at 3. You get there at 5 to 3. They're already tapping their fingers on the desk waiting for you. What happened to you? You go to them and tell them, I'm picking you up at 3. We're going to go learn Torah. And then we're going to daven. And then we're going to learn more Torah. So I'll be there at 3. They'll look at you and say, wow, that sounds awesome. Why don't you get started without me and let me know how it goes? And I'm going to try to get there. And you come there at 3, you wake up the person, they can't get out of bed, there's no energy. What's the difference? Because the one you have put inside of your life in a place of importance, the other, imagine if I said that I was giving a 3-hour shiur. Yeah, okay, I believe some of you would say, why only 3 hours? Okay, I understand. But there are many people who look at 3 hours? 3 hours? Do you know what most of you did, or many of you did yesterday? You sat in front of a box and you watched big fat guys bounce on each other for 3 hours. It's not impossible. When it's something that's important and valuable, when it's something that you've put into a place that you've said that this is critical for me, there's all the energy in the world. Atzlus comes, laziness comes from a lack of understanding. Noach gets put inside of the boat. And if you think about it, God did not have to put Noah in a boat. God could have told Noah, go up on top of the tallest mountain, because it's going to get a little soggy down here. Go up on the top of the tallest mountain, I'm going to save you. But instead he tells Noah that he's got to go into a boat. Now God could have easily just crinkled his nose and the boat would have just appeared. And Noah could take the animals in, and it could have been actually replete with animals. Like the animals could have been in there. The whole thing could have been set up, right? God could have built the whole thing up there in heaven and dropped it down for Noah, and it would have been fine. But instead, he tells Noah that the only way you're going to be saved from this is you're going to have to build an ark. You're going to have to fill it with animals. And then what happens? Noah builds the ark, 120 years, fills it with animals, and then it starts to rain. Now, if this was most of us, I would like to believe that the minute you had the first drop, you would have beelined it inside of that boat. And instead, between the Torah and the Medrash, we understand that Noah didn't get into the boat until the water was up to his neck. How in the world does that happen? And Rashi tells us that Noah was a mammon ve'enu mammon. He believed, he was miktani amana. He was from the small ones of faith. Does that mean the small ones of faith? He's the guy that was saved from the boat. Thank you very much. He's the only guy that was saved from the whole generation. Everybody else was melted into water, and he's saved. And you're saying that he's miktani amana? He's from the small ones of faith? Because Noah did not get the power of that moment. There was an atzlus. There was a laziness. You see, when I use that word laziness, everybody thinks of sitting on a couch with a beer, right, with a clicker in your hand, with everything you need right around you so you don't have to get up, and you're sitting there for hours, and that's a lazy person. Not necessarily. And you see a person that's running around the room, and mamish, you're schwitzing just watching them run in their lives. Like they're running and doing, and they're always busy, and wow, you say, what a productive person. And you say, that person, that's not a lazy person. You don't know that. Because that person could be filling their day and their life with things that are useless. And every important thing that they need to do is falling by the wayside. Because they're just busy and lazy. Laziness doesn't mean sitting and doing nothing. Lazy means not understanding what we're supposed to be accomplishing and what we're supposed to be doing in our lives. And therefore, the things that we really need to be doing, the things that are really giving us our advantage and our growth, those we're ignoring. And we're letting fall to the wayside. And that's atzlus. When you don't have that inner drive. The reason why you don't have the inner drive, we say, I wish I could do that, but I'm just not driven to do that. If you're not driven, that means you don't understand its importance, or you've decided that it's unimportant, which is also a normal possibility. A lot of times when it comes to Jewish things, and we're not motivated to them, so we feel like I'm not motivated, I can't push myself. No, so don't work on motivation. Don't go to a self-help class that's going to teach you about how to motivate yourself. You see these articles, right? How to motivate yourself, how to get more energy in life. Don't even bother. Look at the thing itself and analyze the thing itself. Why is this not so important to me in my life? Why is spending time with my kids, spending time with my spouse, things that we sometimes have a laziness to? Why am I lazy in this area? Why am I not finding the energy in this area? Because why am I not seeing it as something valuable and critical to my life? And I think that is what the Mishnah is saying. That you want to see whether you're a lazy person or whether you're a person that's filled with energy. Take the thing that Judaism calls the most important thing, the foundational thing, which is learning Torah, which, by the way, I discussed this with somebody here this morning. Learning Torah doesn't just mean sitting and learning Chumash. It doesn't mean learning Gemara. It doesn't just mean learning a text. Learning Torah means learning the value of life, learning the priorities in life, learning what's important and what's not important. And therefore, if a person is going to reach a level of precision and care and energy in their lives, the only way they're going to reach that is by understanding what's valuable, what are the priorities, what are the things that I need to be putting my energy into, what is the most important thing that I need to have in my life. These are questions that a person has to ask themselves. And the way, and it's not just come up with some answer from Tupac Shakur or something so just from some person out there. We got to look at it and we got to see it within ourselves. We have to see it through our Torah, through our understanding of what the Torah wants from us and what as Jews we're meant to prioritize. The more Torah we study, the more understanding we have, so then the greater energy that we have to ushmartem es hamatzos, to guard the matzos, and at its very core to guard the mitzvos, to have a sense of energy. The Mishnah tells me that when it comes to going to the Beis Medrash, which itself is not the value, but it's the place where you learn, it's the situation where you learn what is valuable and what is important. So there are 4 temperaments. The first 2, no value judgment. A person who goes, but he doesn't produce, he gets schar for going. He has enough energy to understand that that's where he belongs. That's where he needs to spend his time and put his energy, so then that he's going to get reward for that. That's going to be to his advantage. But, unfortunately, he gets there and he does nothing. He doesn't produce anything because that part of it he doesn't get. That part of it is not yet important to him. The second, Osa v'yeno holech, he understands that the place that he is going to grow is going to be from the Torah, that when he understands what's important, he's going to fly. And he's willing to do that at home without expending too much energy, without picking himself up and going somewhere, without having to be connected to a community, without having to be connected to other people, without having to be connected to a teacher. So he's got half the picture. He'll get reward for the half a picture, schar ma'aseh biyado. But he hasn't yet reached the place that he is going to really grow. Holech va'osa, person who picks himself up, goes and produces. So he has the energy to make the effort to want this to happen, and then he understands that this is the way to actually make this happen. So that person is a chassid, not a tzaddik. He's a chassid, he's pious. Because piety is built on the understanding of the importance of something, and that's when a person pushes themselves. A person goes beyond levels. A person goes beyond baselines. That's what a chassid is. That's what a pious person is. Pious person who's somebody who masters the baseline and is able to push themselves beyond that baseline. That's only going to come when a person shows he hasn't gotten there yet, but he gets up, he goes, and he produces. He's on his way. Because when you have the understanding of the value of something and you have the speed, the energy to be able to do it, when you've knocked out your laziness and you have picked up this energy, which come from the same place, understanding why this is critical to my life, so then that's the road to chasidus, that's the road to piety. Lo holech v'lo osa, a person who has no energy, he has no ability, he has no desire to get up and to go. He has no desire to gain any insight into the world. He's happy just sitting in front of a television and watching a football game. He's happy just watching, he's actually watching commercials, right? He's happy to do that. It's an enjoyable thing in life. He's happy just to walk around and to smell the roses and to do all of those other things. And don't bother me with all the details. That person who's an eno holech ve'eno osa, that person is on his road to wickedness. Because when you live in a world, you don't understand its value, you don't understand its worth, you end up making decisions that bring you to dangerous places. You're not a Russia just because you don't go to the Beis Medrash. You're not a wicked person just because you don't produce anything in the Beis Medrash. But that's the road to wickedness. The road to wickedness, the road to destruction, the road to self-dissolution, that comes from not recognizing the value and the importance and the beauty of the world that we live in. And that's what I see in this Mishnah. That this Mishnah is telling us you have to look at yourself and you have to recognize, are you a goer and not a producer? Are you a producer but not a goer? Are you a goer and a producer? Do you have full energy for things? And if you don't take a self-help book and look for ways to motivate yourself. It's Band-Aids at best. Look for ways to recognize why this is something that's critical in my life. Why this moment, I can't let it pass. If I've been given this opportunity, then al tachmitzena. Don't let it become chametz. Don't let it, 1 second, you could lose it all. But if it's valuable and important, I'll hold on to it with tenacity, and it will never, it won't pass me, and I'll gain what I need to gain from this, and then continue to grow. This Mishnah, in the run of the Mishnayos here, in the section of the four characteristics, this Mishnah is fundamental and critical, because it's not about going to Beis Medrash. It's about opening our eyes and recognizing what's really important, what's really valuable in life. Okay, my thoughts. I find when we look at these Mishnayos, when you twist them a little bit, you just turn them a little bit. There's always beauty in them, even if you just stayed in the simple understanding of them. But when you start to squeeze them a little bit, there is so much power in them. There is so much beauty in them. And this is, what's like incredible to me is that this is just a basic thing. You can apply this to your job. You can apply this to your life. You can apply this to your relationships. This is which is what we say the Torah is. You're going to see at the very end of this chapter, there's an incredible Mishnah which really teaches us this point, that at the end of the day, everything that you need to know in life is here inside of these pages. Inside of the pages of the Torah, everything you need to know and understand is there. And certainly when it comes to our own behaviors and our own understanding, our own characters, it's all here inside. Hafochba the kulaba. Turn it over and turn it over again, because everything that you need is sitting right in front of you. Okay. Beautiful. Everybody should have a beautiful, amazing, wonderful day and a wonderful week. And thank you all for coming. It's great to see you. Maybe next Monday night, I will try to be early, and maybe I'll push Dafyomi off a few minutes, so that we can have a few minutes to hang out. I was saying to somebody recently that Zoom is an incredible thing. The Rebbe Shalom did. I mean, this is unbelievable how this has been developing over years, and it comes and it hits sort of its stride exactly when we need it. Exactly when we need it. Can you imagine what life would have been for the past? It's a year now. A year for the past year. Can you imagine what life would have been without this? Many people's lifelines are Zoom, and we would have been what they would have done for us is something very difficult. It would have made this. It's been difficult, but it would have made it very, very difficult. The only thing that this can't replace is real contact, is real human contact. I mean, I love looking at everybody's faces. That's why I don't mind. I realize that you're eating dinner, you're going to sleep, you do whatever you do it. So you put your name up there. It's fine. But even the name actually brings me a little joy. Right? And, when you just see people, but when you see people's faces, I think that's even one step better, and to have a little chance to schmooze a little bit, even though it's not the same as human contact, but it certainly is at least an upgrade. It's one step better. So next week I'm going to try to build in either before or after. We'll build in a little time just to schmooze a little bit. Okay.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Okay, everybody should have, my pleasure. Everybody should have a beautiful day. I think for you it's night. Yeah.
Thank you, Rabbi.
A beautiful night.
Thank you so much, Rabbi.
Thanks so much,
My
Rabbi.
pleasure.
It was a very good class. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you. Now I don't need a cup of coffee.
Have a
I'm
good
awake.
week. Have a
Have
great
a good week.
Bye-bye.
Danke schön.
Thank you very
Danke
much.
schön.
Thank you. Okay, guys. Daf Yomi, guys. Um, one second.